What's up?
Hey, how's it going, Brent?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for stopping by.
Hell yeah, man. It's a pleasure.
All right, we are live now. I am Cho, and this here is
This is
Ritchie Randall, guitar player for the band Gravehuffer from
yeah.
was it Joplin, Missouri?
Yes, sir. Joplin, Missouri.
Yeah, we definitely thank you for having you on the United Ambition page.
Thank you.
And what we are doing at the United Ambition page is we're helping people that are coming into the music scene acquire information on the most effective and efficient way on getting into the scene, as well as for small businesses and stuff like that, coming into the
Cool.
scene. So, yeah, when did you first become into the music scene?
It probably would have been early '90s. I'm showing my
Oh, wow.
age. Yeah, I'm 45, so yeah, I've been doing it a while. Like '92, I think, was the first band I started playing in. And we just played a couple local shows, backyards, that kind of thing. And
Right.
well, but we were writing original material. We were pretty ambitious, and that was called Sakura. And I think that lasted about 2.5 years, maybe 3 years. I moved out on my own because I was still living with my parents at the time. And then I started a two-man kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, but we were really influenced by this band called Strapping Young Lad and Godflesh and stuff like that. And it was just me, another guy, and a drum machine, and we were called Satan's Ice Cream Truck. And so we just put out cassettes and played. We played a lot of shows actually. It was always weird going to play local shows, and everybody's always like, "Hey, where's your drummer?" It's this guy. It was like this Alesis drum machine that we called Ringo, and so yeah, we would just hook that up, and hopefully the place would have a decent PA, because sometimes we'd play places and they wouldn't even hardly have a PA, and so it was sounding kind of crazy, but yeah, that was a lot of fun, and that led to a band called Initial Detonation, and they were pretty serious. And at first, they recruited the other half of Satan's Ice Cream Truck. His name's Gary Moore, and he was in the band about a year, and then they asked me to be in the band after their one of their guitar players left. And the bass player for that band is Mike Gilgy, who plays bass in Gravehuffer. So Mike and I have been jamming together since about '97, and so yeah, we've been doing it a long time. But Initial Detonation, we released some stuff on vinyl. We toured some. We went all the way up into Canada, did the East Coast, the Midwest, and the South. Several times. Um, we go like a couple weeks here, a few weeks there. We did like 2 months one time. That was pretty brutal. But this was in the late '90s before the internet, and so it was a pretty interesting time to kind of be, what am I trying to say, paying your dues, I guess. And
Right.
so I know there's a lot of bands and musicians out there now that are starting out, that have the internet and social media, that it's a lot easier to get contacts that way. We had to get the actual telephone out, and get use the road map, like the actual paper map to find where we're going. And I feel like I'm a caveman or something, but
Right.
anyway, yeah, that was we've been doing this a long time. And then Gravehuffer started in 2008. So in between Initial Detonation and Gravehuffer, there was some, getting married, having kids. A lot of us were, doing the family thing. And then we got that itch again in 2008, and we started it back up. And initially, the drummer in Gravehuffer was also the Initial Detonation drummer named Larry Deerdorf. And so it's actually three-fourths of Gravehuffer was the previous band, Initial Detonation. So it's pretty cool to have that writing chemistry and everything. And we fell into place real quick, and Gravehuffer's kind of just been going strong ever since 2008. So I don't know if I answered your question.
I mean, yeah, I think you did.
Okay, I kind of forgot, man. I just kind of went off. Sorry.
So Gravehuffer has been a thing for what, 13 years now?
Yeah, it's kind of
Wow.
crazy, right?
So it led from one band to another.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Did
it's
it
go ahead.
evolve from one band to Gravehuffer, or was it like stop there and then form Gravehuffer?
Yeah. Well, for me, I pretty much stopped playing music in like 2000, 2001 when Initial Detonation stopped. The other guys, Mike and Larry, anyway, they formed a band called Freak Flag, and they were doing like, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was like this guitar and bass, but they had all these samples going on and all this crazy noise, and it was like kind of like if Clutch was an industrial band. Really, really cool vibe. But they did that for, gosh, 8 or 9 years. They did that almost up until Gravehuffer was. Actually, I think they may have even been doing that when Gravehuffer started. And then they were just kind of like, we want to play some fast, heavy shit again. So I don't know if I can curse, but.
Oh, yeah, you're fine.
Okay, cool. Because I've been on interviews where I can't, but anyway.
If
So yeah,
children are watching, parental advisory.
Yeah. Well, I did an interview here. It's been semi recently with a radio station, and one of the first things they said, the language has to be clean, and I was like, oh, okay, it's cool, it's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, there was a lull for me personally, but for the rest of the guys, for Mike anyway, in particular, I mean, he's been playing music since like '89 or something, like,
Oh, wow.
geez, 30 some odd years. So yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
So, what would you say the music scene was like in the 90s compared to what it is now?
Man, that's an awesome question. Because the music scene in the 90s, like I said, it was before the internet. So a lot of the times when you're going to book a show or if you're going to play a show with another band, it was more of it was like a word of mouth thing, which I know it still is, but it's more of a phone to phone, you know what I mean? And this, back then it was like you put flyers up on telephone poles. You went into music stores and put flyers up, and you went to um, you know schools and universities and any place that you knew there was going to be young kids and or people your age or whatever. And we still actually do both. We'll do the Facebook invites and all that, but then we also still print flyers and keep it old school. But yeah, that was that's how you spread the word back then. And that was, to me, that's the biggest difference really, is trying to bring awareness to what you're doing. And as far as the music, it's not really. I mean, it's different. It's obviously, but it's still four guys in a room writing songs, and the music just changes as your life changes. But it's still the same. Guitar, bass, drums, vocals, kind of approach, and then we just whatever we're feeling comes out, and it's always been that way. But yeah, the '90s. It's definitely more like a punk rock kind of thing, and
Right.
uh, now it's a weird. It's kind of all over the place, which is cool. I like that. Like metal bands are kind of like allowed to be weird. So back then you just had these big like subsections, these divides. And I think being in Joplin, it's kind of a smaller town, so there wasn't like a metal scene or a punk scene. There was just the Joplin scene. So metal bands and punk bands had to get along and play together. Otherwise there wasn't nobody at the show. So that was really cool growing up in a smaller town. All the kids. We played with ska bands, we played punk bands, we played with just like blues bands. I mean, we've played with all kinds of bands. It didn't matter. Everybody was just there to jam out and listen to music. It was the mixed genre shows that, like, that's what they call it now, I guess. Back then, it wasn't called that. It was just a show. So,
Right.
it's weird. how you talk to people in bigger cities and they're like, the metal scene was over in this area, and the punk scene was over here. And we're like, we were just kind of here, because there are only like a few places to play. Um, because most of us weren't old enough to play in the bars and the venues and stuff because you had to be 21, and most of the bands that played in like your 21 and over venues were like blues and cover bands, and so we weren't interested in that. I mean, I love blues, but we weren't a blues band. But so we had to book all ages shows at VFWs, and we'd have to rent out just a empty building, or we play skate parks, you name it. So yeah, I think the biggest difference now and then is just basically like I said, spreading the word and the bands you play with. Although we still kind of do the mixed genre thing here, like I said, because it's just a smaller town, so
Right.
everybody just kind of gets along and plays their music.
Okay. Would you say it would be? You said Joplin, Missouri,
Mm-hmm.
has a small population.
Yeah.
So compared from then till now,
Mm-hmm.
would you say that it was more difficult then or more difficult now
Um,
as far as
pro-
getting the word out?
Getting the word out, probably it's kind of it's almost more difficult now. I think part of the reason it is that there's not as many all ages venues here now. Back then, you just kind of made your own. And now there's just all those old buildings and stuff that we used to rent out are either demolished or somebody bought them and turned it into, a retail spot or whatever. And so that's kind of the big difference. It's like you kind of have to play the bar scene, whereas back then it was like totally opposite. And I mean, we're old enough to play the bar scene, and thankfully, there is a place here called Blackthorn, and it's a pizza and pub, and they do occasional all ages shows before 10 p.m. But most of the time, they've got two stages, and big stage and a small stage, and depending on what kind of music they have, that's what If they're doing like blues and stuff like that, they'll play the small stage. But if they're doing more of the rock and metal and punk stuff, they'll play on the big stage. Um, so yeah, if it weren't for that venue, then there really wouldn't be too many places to play here. Blackthorn's definitely been a saving grace, I guess. Funnily enough, the other guitarist in Initial Detonation with me, he's the one that actually started Blackthorn. So it actually came from more of a punk rock kind of like ethos, if you want to call it that. He's like, I want a venue that everybody can play and that has that more all ages vibe to it, and it just doesn't have cover bands and blues bands. And
Right.
that's what it turned into.
Okay. Who would you say your biggest influences are?
Man, I've got a lot. I would say I'll just get like starting out. My parents named me after Ritchie Blackmore, who was in Deep Purple and Rainbow, and Smoke on the Water. Bam, bam, bam. Of course, that was the first song I learned how to play. And so yeah, he was big. And then I discovered Judas Priest, and I was like, holy shit, what is this? I was like 5 or 6 years old, and this would have been like the early '80s. And back then, that stuff was pretty wild. So yeah, they were really big for me, and seeing the guys with the Flying V guitars, and I was just used to seeing Strats and Les Pauls, and then I saw Priest playing Flying V's. I'm like, I fucking want to do that, man. And so I mean, that was it. I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to play that guitar. And then I started getting into like Metallica and the like '80s thrash and Anthrax, Slayer, Megadeth. The big four kind of vibe. And then all the bands that spun off from them, like your Testaments and Exodus and Overkill, all that. And then I discovered death metal and Morbid Angel, and kind of got into the Napalm Death and the Grind and Brutal Truth and Godflesh. I know they're more industrial, but I mean, I don't know. It just kind of got more extreme as I got older. And then the '90s, the whole death metal explosion was pretty awesome. And I can't forget Black Sabbath. I mean, Tony Iommi's kind of like it for me. So it's like I want to play Black Sabbath riffs, but really fast.
Right.
so yeah, that's pretty much my bigger influences for sure.
Okay. So you started out on guitar then.
Yes, I did.
Do you play any other instruments or just
Um, Not really well, but yeah, I mean, I can play drums a little bit. I can play bass pretty good. I can play some keyboard and piano okay. I mean, I can play melodies and stuff like that. I'm not real great with chords and melodies at the same time.
right?
I play banjo a little bit. I got a not lap steel, pedal steel guitar that I play around with. Um, yeah, I just like to play whatever, and I can make it not. I can't play them properly a lot of the times, but well, like we have some songs that have little snippets of instruments here and there, and like I said, it's not like there's a song called Stalingrad's Cross that's got banjo and the pedal steel and an ebo, which is this thing you hold over the strings and it vibrates the string, and it's really cool. And so yeah, I like to mess around with other things, but guitar's like definitely my main one. So
Right.
yeah.
So, so mainly like thrash, punk.
hmm Yeah. Yeah, those are definitely big. Mike's more of the punk guy, but I probably didn't get into punk real heavily until the '90s, when I got into Initial Detonation, and then I started getting into like the underground, like hardcore punk stuff and the crust punk and stuff like that. But and I was kind of like, man, to me it kind of tied in with the death metal a little bit because it was just fast and aggressive, but it had more of a I don't know, just the vocal style was different, and it was kind of one of those things where punk, I think, allowed people to realize that you don't have to be a technical wizard to like play music. You can still get your emotions out with three chords or whatever. You just put them in different shapes or different progressions or whatever, and you find that right one, and it's like, man, that's how I feel. So I
Right.
definitely connected with that.
Okay. Nice. So as far as Gravehuffer, I see that
Mm-hmm.
you guys are kind of listed as like a multi-genre band.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like thrash, punk. What'd you say? Like doom, maybe?
Yeah, it's kind of like a little bit of everything. Sludge, I guess we get called that a lot. Which I guess sludge is kind of like doom, but with like aggressive vocals, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, so like your I Hate God and stuff like that, and Acid Bath kind of had some of that going on. Yeah, I mean, we just kind of do everything. I think part of it is our age, when you grow up listening to like all those 70s and 80s bands, they'd have a heavy song, they'd have a fast song, then they'd have a mellow song, and then they'd have something that's a little more like kind of goofy or whatever. And however we're feeling that day is typically what comes out, when we're
Right.
writing stuff. So we don't like limit it to just death metal or just thrash or just punk or just grindcore or just sludge, doom, whatever. Um, we like so much different kinds of things, and so we try to keep it extreme, and aggressive, but the tempos are going to vary quite a bit. Vocals are going to vary some, and I think that's kind of the thing when people say stylistically we're all over the place. It's usually like a different vocal or a different like riff style or whatever. Maybe that this song's got more of a simple riff. Maybe this song's more like complicated. We just it's just like I said, whatever we're feeling at the time, that's what comes out. And if everybody is like digging on it, then we end up using it. So yeah, we just try not to limit ourselves as far as I don't know genre, because like I
Right.
said, if you listen to old bands like Led Zeppelin or whatever, I mean, gosh, they had just like all acoustic stuff. They had like super heavy stuff. They had just like some stuff was a little faster, you know. So I'm not comparing us to them by any means. I'm just saying like that stuff that we listen to, and that's definitely rubbed off on us.
Okay. How would you describe your writing experience? Like, do you bring guitars to the table first, or do you guys all sit around together and jam out and just come up with stuff? How do you do
Uh,
that?
yeah, it's actually both. Sometimes we'll bring ideas that we've recorded at home or whatever on our phones or however. And then sometimes when we're all rehearsing for a show or whatever, we'll take a break and one of us will be messing around on something and that'll turn into a song. And so, yeah, it just kind of depends on, um, like I said, again, how everybody's feeling. As there's no set in stone approach. Um, this last album that we just put out, um, a lot of it was written like all four of us in the band room together jamming. I mean, there were some things that people brought in like riffs and ideas and things like that, but I'd say a little more than 2/3 of it was just us in the room in the moment, just like writing. And it was a little different this time because of COVID and everything. So, but everybody was having to kind of be careful, and so it was kind of weird. Like it'd be a couple of us one day, the next time it'd be a couple of the other guys, and it was a different writing process this last time. Plus, we had a new drummer and a new
Right.
singer actually. So yeah, it was pretty wild, but yeah, it's a little bit of both to answer your question.
So COVID's definitely affected you all with
Yeah,
practicing and writing as well.
right. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I work at a university and I'm not around people a ton because I kind of work behind the scenes. I don't work directly with students that much. I do all the printing and the mail for the university. So, but with all that incoming mail, I got to make sure I'm clean and all that stuff, wash my hands a lot.
Oh
So,
yeah.
yeah. Our bass player works at a TV station, so he's pretty much away from the public. Our singer works at Lowe's, and so he's around people. And Lowe's is insane. I mean, people are like, dude, we need to fix up our house. Like
Right.
home improvement projects are like the in thing right now. So he just gets his ass kicked every day. But yeah, nobody's come. Well, I take that back. Our drummer did get COVID. Um,
Oh no.
but yeah, he didn't. It wasn't too bad. The job I can't remember. He used to work. Damn, I can't remember now. He grows pot now, funnily enough. But yeah, right. It's like I'm not joking. It's there's a pot farm that's like north of Kansas City where he lives, and that's his job. He like harvests and like it's serious. I mean, there's like huge greenhouses. I mean, it's I can't remember the name of the company, but yeah, it's totally legal. It's kind of a cool. He gets paid pretty well, but he gets to bring his stuff to band practice. it's,
Oh wow.
it's pretty. I mean, for all you potheads out there, I don't, but every once in a while. But the other guys, like, I mean, they're just freaking chimneys. But so yeah, it's pretty interesting to say the least as far as the whole COVID thing. We've had to kind of adjust how we do things. We are starting to finally get together and like rehearse together again. Um, I've been tested once. I think everybody's actually been tested, and other than our drummer, we don't have it. And vaccinations for myself will be rolling out here pretty soon. And sign me up. However you feel about that, but I'm on board. But um, anyway, yeah, it's definitely an interesting time right now, to say the least.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So As far as songwriting now, you can
Mhm.
record it on your phone or
Mm.
device, present it
Right.
to your bandmates or whatever.
Yeah.
How would you describe that compared to back in the 90s?
Like back in the 90s, we were recording on 4-track cassettes. And so, technology wise, it's completely different. And I just remember back then, like, we all had to get together and just record our parts like then and there. There wasn't, you didn't really like just record yourself doing things near as much as you do now. It was usually we wrote together, and now it's more of both. Where, like I was saying earlier, you could, if you're inspired by something, oh, I'm going to pick up my guitar and play, blah blah blah, and I just record it on my phone, like you were saying. And but yeah, back then it was typically you would schedule a time to rehearse with your bandmates, and then you would record the ideas on the 4-track, and you'd set up like four mics or whatever, and record your stuff and your ideas. And now you can do that and record individual ideas. I mean, I guess you could have recorded individual ideas back then, and there may have been a time here and there where they did, but the thing with that is the gear was big, so you had to have space for it, and we were like fucking broke all the time and living in tiny houses, and you know what I mean. So,
Yeah,
so it's like I don't have room to do it, And now you got these tiny phones that record pretty good quality, and you just it's this big, and you just put it in front of your amp, and then just or plug it in. You can do it quietly. However, it's just a lot more convenient now. Whereas back then it was like a fucking production. You had to like dedicate a set amount of time, set amount of hours, certain time of the day, whatever, to do your ideas and recordings. And now with the technology, it's easier to do it when you're inspired right at the time. So I personally I prefer the way it is now.
right. I can see that. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember back, what, 2004 to 2006 or something
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Yeah.
Used to record on, was it Windows 98 on the
Yep.
sound recorder?
Yep. You have like a little. Yep. You have a
Yeah,
jack, and
have to
you
dub
can.
over it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. I remember. I didn't do a ton of that, but I do remember doing that. Probably because I wasn't like in bands at the time, but I was getting the itch around 2006. I was like, man, I
Yeah.
want to play music again. So, yep, totally get it.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about Gravehuffer. So,
Mm-hmm.
how many albums have you guys done since 2008?
Well, we actually started out being called Crom, and I don't know if you're familiar with the movie Conan the Barbarian with Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Yeah.
but Crom was Conan's god. He'd go Crom, and so so we just thought it was funny, and it stuck for a few years. And then we were getting confused with other bands and rappers and whatever called Crom. Really weird. So we changed it to Gravehuffer in 2011, and we actually did release an album under the Crom name, but we re-released it as Gravehuffer in 2012 with 6 more songs on it. And the guy that was the head of the label we were on at the time, that was his idea. He's like, you guys should reintroduce the Crom stuff as Gravehuffer because it was the same guys in the band. It wasn't like it was a different band. We just changed the name. And the name Gravehuffer has definitely gotten us a lot more attention. so, so yeah, that name seems like it's worked out a lot better for us. But yeah, that came out. That was Blast Music, and that came out in 2012. And then we released Your Fault in 2017, and we had a 2-song EP. It came out in 2019, and then Necro Eclosion came out a couple weeks ago.
Okay. Nice. Actually, I was listening to a couple songs,
Mm-hmm.
Sights in the Sky and
Yeah.
Causes.
Hmm.
And I actually
Yeah.
heard there's a little story behind causes.
Yeah, causes. I have stories for both of those actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Causes is pretty. It was pretty interesting. That was as we were talking earlier about recording your ideas at home by yourself. Our bass player, he wrote that entire song on bass at his home one day. And occasionally Mike will do that. He'll like, "Hey, I got this entire song," you know, and I was like, "Oh wow!" And so he showed it to us, and we learned our parts or whatever. I mean, he didn't tell us what to play, but he just like, this is what I'm playing, work around it basically. And so I came up with the guitar line, and then Jay, our drummer, just started playing drums. And that was kind of one of those things, like Mike had the bass, and then the song kind of like the rest of it wrote itself. So yeah, it was pretty interesting. We'd never really written anything like that before. And it's funny, when we recorded it, we actually recorded it the same day we wrote it.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, that was crazy. We've never done that. And so what you hear on the record is we had literally just written the song like an hour prior. And so yeah, it was pretty cool. And then we were just racking our brains like, what's the song like lyrically? We had no idea. Well, a friend of ours named Ryan Smith, he was in a band. I don't know if you've ever heard of Mojo Nixon, but it's like this. Oh, I don't know what you call it. Not comedy rock, but kinda. It's like this. It's just really kind of off the wall, kind of offbeat, funny music. Well, they were called Vaginal Discharge, and it was just it was just acoustic guitar and vocals. Well, Ryan was the singer, and oh my God, they were something. They were just very offensive. And so Ryan ended up he would write poetry and all this kind of stuff along with his lyrics or whatever. And he ended up passing away and had a heart attack probably 4 or 5 years ago. And Stan, the other guy in Vaginal Discharge, he's like, man, it'd be really cool to have some kind of tribute to Ryan, um, you know, on the album. So we're like, yeah, that'd be really cool. So we went on the website that's got all his poetry. We picked one called Causes, and our singer Travis was like, yeah, we can try that. So what you hear on the record is Travis's first attempt at singing the lyrics, and it fit exactly where the lyrics were supposed to go. We didn't have to cut anything. We didn't have to add anything. And it was kind of fucking spooky. how it was like it was meant to be, basically. So yeah, it was really cool. And then it's got a friend of ours, Doug DeSherry. He teaches music at the university I work at. He plays trombone and trumpet and tuba, and there's a horn section at the end. And we were kind of like, man, are people gonna like this? But people hear it and they're like, whoa, what the fuck is that? That's wild, And so yeah, people have been digging on that one. Sights to the Sky actually has a guest appearance from Ch0, who is the guitar player for Voivod from Canada.
Oh,
And
wow.
I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they've been around fucking since like
Is-
the early '80s.
Isn't that the band that Jason Newsted went with after he
Yeah,
quit
Jason.
Metallica?
Yeah. Jason Newsted was in there he's played on 3 of their records. And so, yeah, their guitar player plays the solo on Sights to the Sky.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's quite something.
And you've also had other guest appearances as well, haven't you?
Yeah. We usually try to have 1 or 2 on an album. We've been doing that ever since. Like, gosh, we've been doing that forever. Like, even in Initial Detonation, we did that. We just kind of we like working with our friends and making new friends doing this thing. Um, like the the EP has got our friends of ours from a band called Sardis that are a local band here in Joplin, and they are like fucking shred masters. Like, there's no way in hell I can play that stuff. So that song is about the German invasion of Russia in World War II, and then Russia ended up kicking the shit out of them. Battle of Stalingrad. And so the guitar solos are like, it starts with a Russian composer, and then it's the next one's a German composer. They like quoted some classical pieces in the solos, and I'm like, man, you guys are, that's brilliant, you know? And so let's see, who else? We got a song on the new album. It's about Andre the Giant, the wrestler from the 80s. And the guy that builds my amps used to be in a band called Annihilator from Canada. And he was also in Nevermore. And he plays the solo. Yeah, he was a touring guitarist. I don't think he played on any records, but he filled in because I think Steve Smythe ended up leaving, and so they hired him to play alongside Jeff Loomis. And he plays the solo on Smaller Than Death, and it's like this 2 guitar harmony shit, and it's like fucking crazy. so yeah, he builds my amps. He's got a company called Custom Audio Mutation, and I think they're from Akron, Ohio. But yeah, that dude, he's amazing. He knows his shit.
So your cabinet that says Gravehuffer, he built that?
No, he actually built the amplifier head. It's on the top.
Head, okay.
Yeah, it's like the silver alligator, like reflective thing. It's super cheesy, but it's awesome. No, the one that says Gravehuffer, that's Arachnid Cabinets. The guy that built that is Robert Calhoun, and he's in a band called Wormflesh, and they're from Sacramento, California. And they're like just crazy, full-on death metal. So yeah, that guy does insane work. Like my cabinet's silver with like this blood. It looks like somebody murdered somebody like above my cabinet.
Nice.
Yeah, it's badass.
So you actually have quite a few endorsements on you, don't you?
Yeah, coffin cases. What I'm wearing here, that's one of them. Yeah, I've got quite a few, and the endorsement thing was weird. Like it just kind of happened. I think I was friends with a guy that had a few endorsements, and then basically I just asked him. I was like, "Man, how did you get these companies to partner up with you?" He's like, "Oh, I just emailed them, or I just Facebook messaged them or whatever." A lot of the times they'll have like their contact information on their social media, and so I just started hitting up all these companies, and I mean, I just didn't hit up willy nilly. I hit up companies like that I've used before, like in Initial Detonation or Satan's Ice Cream Truck or even Crom and early Gravehuffer. Excuse me. And there were a couple companies that I was not as familiar with, but I was like, you know what? I would personally rather network with somebody and get a lesser known name than pay all this money for this, Mesa Boogie or whatever, which I love Mesa Boogie. I've got Mesa Boogie, but the rig I have now, I kind of like it better. I mean, it fits more what we do anyway. It was perfect for me, and I could tell the amp guy like what I want. He builds it for me. He sets it to kind of what I'm looking for, and it's like a third of the price of a Mesa Boogie, And same with the cabinets, we can get exactly what we want on them. We can get the speakers we want on them, all this stuff, and we'll get a good deal on them because we're artists with the company. Pardon me. And In-Tune Guitar Picks is another. That was actually through this company called WB Gear, and they have In-Tune Guitar Picks and SIT strings and a whole bunch of people. And the strings is string endorsement's awesome because
Right.
dude, you get them for like a third of the price or whatever. So and I beat the shit out of my guitar, and I go through strings quite a bit. So that's pretty nice. and as far as picks, Intune will put whatever you want on them. So I'm always putting like crazy Gravehuffer art and stuff on them. And, man, I get people messaging me like every other day, like, "Hey, I want some of these picks," And so that's always really cool. People are actually like collecting Gravehuffer picks, and I'm like, I'm pretty proud of that. So yeah, I love working with these companies. my strap guy is Firebird Straps, and he just lives about an hour south of me in Arkansas, and he just takes like recycled materials and builds straps, and he puts spikes on them and all these crazy grommets and all this cool shit, and they're 100% leather and they're like really comfortable. And then one of the big ones is Solar Guitars. They're getting pretty well known now. Um, I've got like 4 of them now.
Right.
So that's, dude, I love them. I mean, I just, gosh, they're the best guitars I've ever owned. And I've had Jacksons, I've had Gibsons, so yay, Solar Guitars. I can't say enough about them.
I mean, I definitely I follow Solar Guitars on Facebook and
Okay,
Instagram, and I'm
right.
constantly sharing their stuff because like every time they release a photo for a new guitar, I'm like, damn it, so nice.
Yeah, I know,
But I've
right?
only
And
played one
uh
Solar guitar in my life. I've only played like a Flying
okay,
V type,
yeah, I've got a
and I
V.
mean, I loved it.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, it's the perfect, like the neck is perfect because I don't like a thin Ibanez neck, but I don't like a baseball bat Les Paul either. I like kind of that medium C radius, like what Solar has, and it's more of like a Jackson, but a little more rounded, and it's just amazing. Because my hands aren't small, but they're not like I don't have like freaking Hulk hands or anything. So yeah, I mean they're perfect
Right.
for me, and they got Seymour Duncan pickups, which is another company we're with, and so yeah, I mean it's just perfect.
Nice.
Thanks.
So you guys just released a new album in January, I believe.
Correct, January 15th.
Okay. Is this on all platforms of music? Downloads,
Yeah.
Spotify, Apple Music?
Yeah, all those Amazon Music, YouTube, all that stuff. You can just stream it wherever you feel comfortable. It's called Necro Eclosion, and Black Doomba Records is who put it out for us. And the head of that label is Tommy Stewart, and he's got like 10 million bands he's in. One of the bands he was in of really pretty good notoriety was a band called Hollow's Eve, and they were on Metal Blade Records in the '80s. And man, he's toured with Slayer, he's toured with Motorhead. I mean, the guy's been there and done that, and we were really really excited to get on with his label because I mean, just the things we've learned from him, from what he's been through in his life in the music business, has been just invaluable. So we always like ask Tommy his opinion on things, and he's been a real good guide for this new album, and it's nice being on a label who can help pay for this stuff too. I'm not gonna lie. So
Exactly.
and the actual vinyl itself is like this 3-color splatter. I mean, it like fits the artwork, and I mean, Tommy wanted to put out a good product, and man, he knocked it out of the park with this thing. I mean, we sell a couple copies a day at least, and so it's been really cool.
Nice.
Thanks.
So back to going back in the past,
Mm-hmm.
as far as booking gigs, how
Yeah.
would you compare that to now?
Um, as far as booking shows back then, me personally, I didn't do a whole lot of that. It was usually the other guys in the band. I'm kind of telling on myself here, but and Gravehuffer, that's like my thing now. I just kind of slipped into that role. It just kind of happened. But back then, I mean, I helped out and stuff, but I made some phone calls and things like that. But that's the thing; it's like you had to actually get on the phone and like call people. You didn't know who you were talking to half the time, really. So,
Right.
and now you get on social media, you kind of can find out about the people, whether they're cool. I mean, you can ask people about them and kind of verify whether they're good to work with, that kind of thing. Back then, you were just kind of like you had like a few phone numbers, and you're like, well, I guess we'll see if this is okay. Let's try this place. And there was a book called "Book Your Own Fucking Life," and this was We used a lot of the information that was in that. There was just tons of phone numbers and addresses in there, and that's what we used back then. I mean, literally a friggin' book, with addresses and phone numbers, and you're like, oh, let's call this one. Let's call this one. Oh, this one looks cool. And you had to route all this out on a map. And so there was like a lot of pre-planning for these things. Now it's a little more of an immediate kind of thing. Other than like checking up on people, but I don't know. It is easier now, I think. But yeah, that's the only thing I can think of is just it's more convenient now than it was then. Um, because sometimes, man, you'd play a show back then and you'd get burned by somebody. They wouldn't pay you, or you just never knew who you were dealing with. And I think now it's a lot easier to get an idea of the good people versus the not so good people because they're out there, unfortunately.
Right. Now, as far as touring,
Mm-hmm.
would you say it was easier back then or easier now? As far as, dealing
Well,
with like work schedules and all that good
yeah.
stuff.
Well, probably. I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily easier or harder. I think it's just a different like approach, I guess. Back then, everybody was single pretty much, and everybody worked jobs they didn't give a fuck about, and we could just take off whenever we wanted to, or just quit the job, come back and get a different job. Now most of us have like careers, so or we're at jobs that have benefits or whatever. We don't want to lose these jobs. Personally, my job, I could probably take off for a couple months and they'd be okay. I'm very, very lucky where I work. The other guys, I don't know, but we don't necessarily do these long runs anymore. We do these Mike likes to call them ninja runs. We'll do 3 or 4 shows, 3 or 4 states out, come home. A few weeks later, we'll do 3 or 4 shows down south, 3 or 4 shows in the Chicago area, wherever. And that's going to be our approach again this summer and this fall. We're going to go on the East Coast. We're going to go north. We're going to go south, west, wherever. We've probably got about 6 or 7 shows booked already for this year, some festivals and things. And usually what we do is we'll book a couple shows to and from the big, main show or whatever. And so yeah, that's how we do it now. Just like you say, for work schedules and things, and to keep everybody, families and stuff happy and not freaking out. And because a lot of us, have kids and stuff that we have to worry about, having babysitters and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Right.
it's just a different approach to the planning, but it's in the end, it still works out pretty much the same. And honestly, back then when you're touring for like 2 months, you kind of you miss home. I know I did. You'd be out there eating SpaghettiOs out of the can or whatever, and you're like, man, I wish I was at home in my bed or on my couch, or you're on the side of the highway. It's 90 degrees and there's diesels flying by, and you're heating something on a sterno freaking campfire thing or whatever. Dude, we just could not afford to eat like fast food all the time. We had to eat like dry food or canned food, or I could not imagine doing that now. I probably could, but I just don't know if I want to. So,
Right.
but when you're young, you don't give a shit.
Yeah. See, I've done like a couple, like we called it weekend warrior type thing.
Yeah,
Where you
that's
pretty
kind
much
of what I
like
was
just
getting at.
go play a bunch of shows for a weekend.
Yep.
But
Mm-hmm.
I definitely get that feeling, even just for 3 days, that feeling that you just want to be back home, just kind of
Yeah, man.
chilling, relaxing, or whatever. But also, you want to
Right.
be on the road as well because you're like, you got that
Yeah.
adrenaline. You want
Uh huh.
picking up
Yep.
new fans, and like
Right.
fans are definitely, will definitely build you up,
Yeah. Exactly,
especially if
man.
you're going in different places.
Exactly. Yep. That's totally it, man. It's like you're meeting new people, and I love that, And people come to the merge table, and you can get a new connection with a band or that you play with, or you never know who's in the crowd, and so it's always like super exciting for me to go out and venture out and play shows, away. Like we always like
Right.
to at least go 10 or 12 hours away at least. So
Nice. So you guys do have some merch?
yeah, we've got shirts, we've got several vinyl editions of everything we've got. Got a couple of splits that we've done with other bands on vinyl. Posters, guitar picks. What else? I always draw a blank on the merch. I think we've got like these tapestries that are pretty cool. It's kind of like what's on the front of my amp. We've got like art books that like every piece of art we've ever done, we put it together in this like glossy book that we all sign and stuff, and it's pretty cool. Speaking of merch, we just signed a deal with Season of Mist, and they're making I think they've got 4 or 5 different designs for us now that you order through the seasonofmist.com, and you can get hoodies. They have crop hoodies for the ladies. They've got long sleeve T-shirts, like racerbacks, tank tops, like all that shit. It's pretty cool, and you can get different colored, like black or green or red. The main reason we did that was people like in Europe and overseas and stuff, like trying to ship them stuff. Dude, it's like it costs more than the shirt does. And
Oh yeah.
so so like like Germany, we sell hoodies in Germany, and so we went with Season of Mist, and sure enough, people in Germany are buying hoodies. It's pretty crazy. And so yeah, we get a cut from it. But the thing that's cool with them is we don't have to pay up front for the materials. It's a print on demand kind of thing. So that's
Right.
been pretty cool. Getting that started. Some growing pains here and there just because we've never done anything like that. So, but yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like say if we do tour, England or Europe or wherever, we'll at least have a merchandise hub, so to speak. So
You guys have a fan base all around the world then.
yeah, I don't know how big it is, but we do have fans everywhere. Really, it's kind of like every once in a while, Spotify will email me like stats for the month or whatever. And ever since the new record came out, our stats went like up like 800%, on listens and stuff. And it's
Right.
it's been kind of crazy. Like the new release has definitely like seems like we've got more exposure ever since this new record came out. So it's doing what we envisioned it to do, I guess, which is to help gain some more fans, and that way when we do play some shows this summer, we'll hopefully have some bigger crowds.
Right. I see releasing an album, what you guys released in January,
Mm,
and already getting the impact that you guys are from that album now.
yeah. Mm,
That shows you that people are pretty bored at home with the pandemic, so they're looking for new music.
yeah.
Right
Hmm.
now is actually crazily to think about. Right now is actually a great time to release new music on
Yes,
social platforms.
you are exactly right. And we were kind of thinking that in a way, it's like, man, what else is there to do? Listen to music, man. That's all I do. Like
Yeah,
as soon as I get done with this interview, I'm gonna go listen to some music, or something, because my family, like my wife loves music. My kids, I've got 4 boys. They all love music, and so yeah, like my oldest son, I'm in his room actually, and he's got some of my old guitars. He's got a keyboard. He's got all kinds of stuff in here. He's got my banjo. He loves music, and I'm like, thank you, you know, which is great because like my parents were so into music, they didn't play, but there was always music going in the house. So I'm glad
right.
it's rubbed off on my kids too.
Yeah, definitely, because they're our next generation.
Yeah, man. And have you ever met somebody that like doesn't really listen to music? And it's like, I
Not
have.
really, but
Yeah, most people do, but I've met people that like, I don't really listen to music much. I'm like, what the fuck? You know,
Yeah, what's wrong with
it's
you, man?
so, I know, right? It's bizarre.
I
My
can't
wife
go a
was telling,
day.
yeah, I know, exactly. Like, I guess my wife was telling me, it's been a while back, but I guess she dated a guy. He had three uh, cassettes or whatever. That was all the music he owned. And I was like, the dude only has three things of music. Like, ugh. She was like, yeah, we only went on the one date. I saw that and I was like, ooh. She's like, that was like the biggest turnoff ever. I'm like, yeah, music collection, that tells a lot about a person.
Yeah, nowadays people go on a date. They're like, "Let me see your Spotify playlist. Let me see your Pandora playlist."
Yes. Yes. That's hilarious.
Oh, nice. Well, I think that's just about all I've got for today.
Okay. All right. Well, it's been a lot of fun, dude. This has been a
Oh
really
yeah,
cool conversation, man. I'm
definitely
glad
really
you had
cool
me on
catching
here.
up with you.
Yeah, you too, man. I'm glad that you had me again, and I'm thankful and I'm honored and humbled, and you know I love talking to people about music. It's it's one of my favorite things. So thank
Oh
you.
yeah, definitely,
Thanks.
definitely. And maybe sometime we can get the whole band on here.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
even do like a little jam sesh or something.
yeah, man. That'd be actually really cool. Where are you from?
I'm located in Virginia.
You're Virginia? Okay. Um, we're gonna be playing in Maryland in June, I think. Something like that. I don't know how. I know that's north of you a little bit, but so yeah, it'll be. It's called the Maryland Death Fest or Maryland Doom Fest. Sorry, and I think it's
Is
June set.
is that
I'm
like
sorry.
near Baltimore?
It's in Frederick. It's like just west of Baltimore. So I think it's across the bay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, I play
Whatever.
in Maryland quite a bit as well.
Oh, really?
Down in Halethorpe.
Okay. Yeah. A friend of ours, he has this Facebook page called Unsigned Not Unheard. His name is Andrew Barrett, I think. No, Balderson, Andrew Balderson, and he kind of helped us get on the Maryland Doom Fest. But yeah, it's kind of like I think we were supposed to play it last year, but COVID, and so it got rescheduled, and so hopefully it still happens. But if it's not too far from you, man, you ought to come out.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll let
Yeah.
you know
I
when
mean,
I think it's June 17th through the 19th, I believe. That weekend. It's like a 3-day thing.
okay. Yeah, definitely send me information, and I'll try to see what I can do to come check it out, as long as COVID allows
Right,
us to.
yeah. Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, if it's still even going to happen, a lot of this stuff's still up in the air, so yeah, we'll see what happens. So,
Right. I
again,
mean, it's
thanks for
pretty much
having me,
just like
man.
book it and see what happens.
See what happens. Yep, that's kind of what we're doing.
Well, Richie, it's definitely good talking to you. Is there anything you'd like to shout out, or tell people to go check?
Yeah. Hello? I think I lost you, man. Well, anyway, it's me. If you check us out at
All right.
gravehuffer.bandcamp.com. Okay. I was just talking.
I
I
don't
saw
know
you
what
run.
happened there.
Yeah, dude. Well, Brent, thanks for having me once again. And gravehuffer.bandcamp.com. That's where I tend to send people to check us out. You can stream all our stuff there. All our merchandise is there. You can even download some free music there. But we are all on the excuse me, the Amazon Music, Spotify, Pandora, Napster, Rhapsody, all the streaming services, YouTube. It's all free to listen to. So if you like it, go tell somebody, and then go buy some shit. Thanks.
Nice.
Thanks,
All right,
man.
man. Well, definitely thank you for joining me on the United Ambition page and giving your backstory and your present story as well.
Thank you, sir.
And definitely look forward to talking to you again and possibly even come and see you guys in Maryland.
All right, man. Thanks, Brent. Have a good night,
All
dude.
right. All
All
right.
right,
You
man.
too, man.
All
Have a
right.
good one.
See ya. You too, man.